Hello, everyone. Welcome to this members webinar. Thank you for your participation today. And I hope that you will end up with a better knowledge of how you can utilize ESS BIZTOOLS to earn fees from the ESS BIZTOOLS product packages and ESS BIZGRANTs by the time we've finished this presentation to you. If you have any questions, can you please go to chat and type your question in, or contact me later on if you're watching this video recording at a later time, a more suitable time. Just send me an email then, peter@essbiztools.com.au, and I will get back to you. Or if you want to have a chat about any issue relative to the implementation of business advisory services within your accountancy firm or your business advisory firm or your bookkeeping firm, please contact me and I'll be happy to have a chat with you. So what I'm now going to do is to bring up the members area of ESS BIZTOOLS, which you should now have on your screen. This will give you an overview of the product packages, which are in the listing here on the left-hand column, individual products. So to start this journey of being able to fully utilize the ESS BIZTOOLS material and the ESS BIZGRANTs, you need to become familiar with the layout of the systems in both packages. So the first thing I think we need to concentrate on is making sure that you have been trained in the differences, the different interpretation and work requirements to be able to deliver business advisory services. So my suggestion is you go to Business Advisory Services Training and you bring that up so that you can see that. There is a video there that you can watch, and there's then a series of material to prepare you and your colleagues to be able to deliver business advisory services. My suggestion is that you spend about 1 hour on each of these modules. There's 13 of them. Some people do it in a couple of days, but my suggestion is why not space it out over a couple of months. Appoint one of your team to be a facilitator. The facilitator should read the material first, and you can then really come to an understanding of what's included in the product. Today's theme is how you can utilize these products to earn more fees. I'm going to go to one of the modules to start that discussion with. So I'm going to skip over these early ones: introduction, getting organized, offering business advisory services, team training, which is very important, the leadership strategies, the marketing strategies, review of products, and then the use of the SME needs analysis. So that's what I'm clicking on to, because this is a very important document, probably the most important document in the entire system. You should now be able to see the SME Needs Analysis Questionnaire. So what we're looking at today is, this is part of the training process. I think it's very important to have an awareness of the SME Needs Analysis. But obviously it's also part of the implementation. How do you then go out and sell these services to your clients? And unfortunately, you are going to have to market and sell. There's no easy route to getting this process underway. SMEs have been brainwashed over the years by accountants and the accounting profession generally that the key product that we offer is taxation driven, an annual set of accounts and a tax return. But there's a lot more that accountants, as you know, can do. And that's what we're committed to helping you do. So you have to break down that barrier. A lot of SMEs think that only a very few accountants are able to offer these broader range of services. You have to tell them. You have to be able to communicate to them. And one way that I'm suggesting you do that is by utilizing the information within the SME needs analysis to select which of those you think a particular client might be interested in, or you could give him the the SME needs analysis and ask them to sit down of an evening and go through and identify which of the items they would like you to be talking to them about. Remember, they're the CEO of this business and you're the chief financial officer. And it's very important that you understand what's worrying your CEOs. What information do they need to better run their business? I think the best way to do that is to acquaint them with some of the services that you can provide, and this document will help you do it. So are they happy with current performance? Are they getting the information they require on analysis of the results? Do they understand how their productivity is going by individual team members or classifications? Do they understand the benchmarking concept, and would they like to receive a benchmarking comparison report? Or do they want to see how they line up against the taxation officer's benchmarking reports? Do they need more information on ratios? Have you reviewed their key performance indicator reports? Now, each of these items is a fee generation item for an accountancy firm. With their key performance indicator checklist put together 20 years ago, and there's been a lot of changes since, no one's updated it because they didn't know how to, or didn't even think it was important. And indeed, have the team members who are supposed to be utilizing these key performance indicator reports aware of what the information means? Some of you may have heard me talk previously. I was chief financial officer in one of Australia's major meat groups, meat processing company, meatworks, boning rooms, retail shops throughout the eastern states of Australia. And we had some very large meatworks. And I can remember going to one of them when I'd just been appointed as the chief financial officer, and went to the foreman's smoko room to join them for their morning smoko, which was fairly early in the morning because they'd started very early in the morning. And I just happened to ask them, were they happy with the reports they were getting? And I used the term key performance indicators. And one of them said to me, "What's that?" And I produced the piece of paper. He said, "Oh, we don't understand what that means. And I don't look at that, or we throw it away." So I sat down with them then and again at lunchtime, and then some of them remained behind when they finished that afternoon. And we redesigned the key performance indicators. In lots of ways, all we did was change the description of various components so that they had a far clearer idea of what these reports were all about. And they had some ownership because they had made an input into the sort of document that they wanted to receive. You got any ideas? Are you thinking of any of your clients that you might be able to do this with? Are they getting reports sent to them that top management thinks they understand, but they don't? And sometimes they really won't put up their hand and tell anyone. They just stumble on and they're not reading the information that is costing money to produce. So why not start thinking of your clients? And then you could run a training program on how to read these things. I'm just finishing a business plan for a company that's got a turnover of 10 to $15 million. It's been going for 50 years and they're now going through the second succession phase. So young people in their early 30s in the family are being introduced into key positions. They're already working there, but they're now being hopefully appropriately mentored. And part of this process is that they're going to receive quite a number of the papers within ESS BIZTOOLS. The general accounting papers, how are profit and loss accounts prepared, how are balance sheets prepared, what are the various ratios, what do they mean, what should they be looking for? Key performance indicators, what do they mean? Budgets, cash flow forecasts, productivity reports, determining charge out rates for employees. This is all very important. And management and people with managers' responsibilities need to understand how all this can be prepared. If I was you, I'd be sitting down and having a conversation with your client if you suspect that key performance indicators are not being used properly, and then submit a proposal to him or her whereby you will update what they're currently utilizing as key performance indicators and then implement a training program. Not all in one session, definitely not in a one-day session. Break it down an hour at a time, maybe over 2 months. Because otherwise the team members that you've got sitting in the room with you will have their mind somewhere else. They'll be wondering what's going on outside and they will not be giving it thought. And they're not used to some of these terminologies, but people need to understand them. So there's giving you some ideas, I hope, of how you can generate income. Because as accountants, we need to be offering services that are going to improve how the CEO runs the business. That's your role as I see it, because that was definitely my role as a chief financial officer in a listed public company. I was one of a team of about 10 in the top level management team, but we were all working for the CEO. The others were in marketing, sales, in our case, the principal livestock buyer, operations, quality control, legal, human resources. So does it give you any idea? What about the debtors management policy? What's the debtors days outstanding? That should be one of the first points that are raised with a client who is offering credit, I think. What's your debtors days outstanding? If it's higher than 40 days, there's an opportunity for you to talk to them about implementing a debtors management system. If it's under 40 days, unless they're on 7-day trading terms, I'd be reasonably happy. But there's a lot of firms around Australia got debtors days outstanding significantly higher than 40 days. This is your opportunity to be able to help them. What about cash flow management? What about budgets and cash flow forecasts? Do they need some assistance in marketing? There's not marketing consultants in every region of Australia, so maybe you could give them some basic. What about human resources? Do they need referral to someone else? We have an arrangement with Blackstone Business group. You could refer people to them. If you want the information and the contact details of Jordan Lowry, the CEO of Blackstone, please contact me. What about customers? Have they got a CRM? Is it working properly? What do they want to know what a CRM can do for them? If they haven't got one, they're probably not communicating with their prospects and their customers on a regular, ongoing basis. And in today's society, that's pretty important. They want you to do some reviews on their competitors. So there's a whole range of things. So I would really suggest to you that you have a good look at the SME needs analysis. So I'm going to finish that there. You've got access to this material that I'm referring to today. So you can go back to that and continue on. The next one that I want to mention is the planning seminar to launch our products. Now on the screen, you've got a summary, which I'm assuming you can read all right. What we have there is a layout of the material that will assist you to be able to run seminars or webinars to promote to your clients that you're doing something new. And I'm going to suggest as we go further into this conversation today that you segregate your your clients into business categories. So you put your tradie businesses together and your retail businesses together and see if you can't run some seminars and webinars for them to alert them that you are now offering a broader range of services. Okay, so now what I want to just discuss with you is the training that ESS BIZTOOLS offers, because it's very important that you avail yourself of these training opportunities, I think, especially with your team members. So some of these areas, the one-on-one training that we're offering to you. For a gold subscriber, you get 4 one-hour sessions during the year. Silver subscriber, you get 3 1 hour. A startup or bronze subscriber gets 2 1 hour sessions, and the other packages have got various components of 1 or 2 hours. You can also hire me to supply additional training services or mentoring services during the year if you wish. Please contact us for a discussion. The training sessions are the 1 hour ones, or in half an hour installments, if that's more convenient for you, can be presented on any aspect of the ESS BIZTOOLS or ESS BIZGRANTS product packages. You can in fact name them. In the first instance, I like to make sure that people have undertaken that general training package, and then we can move forward. Each month we present a webinar for our members. We promote it about a month in advance. And for the next few months, when we release our overdue members alert for May, we'll be giving you a timetable for the next 3 months, so that if that assists in putting dates in diaries, that will be good. And those sessions are going to be presented to you as a training overview of a particular area, whether it's debtors, whether it's charge out rates for professional firms, whether it's retail products, mixes and markups or whatever to improve performance. We're also starting from the 23rd of June the Business Advisory Services Implementation Training. This is a new initiative whereby we are going to pick a particular subject. Let's pick on credit sales. We'll be saying to you, for your clients who offer credit sales, there's a possibility of you offering them services built around debtors management and the debtors system. So we're going to present a webinar for you that goes through every aspect of that and links you to every document that we have within ESS BIZTOOLS on credit sales and debtors management. So this will include some seminars and some suggested one-on-one mentoring material, as well as papers and some videos, so that you've got full access to it, so you can then decide what you're going to present to your clients to talk about the issues that they confront if they're offering credit sales and debtors. So please mark that date in your diary, Wednesday, 23rd of June at 12 noon AEST. And we hope to see you participating with us at that time. The promotion of business advisory services, though, also requires marketing. And this is one of the reasons that we produce the Business Plus newsletter each month. So let's go and have a look at the Business Plus newsletter. I just need to. Yeah, I didn't mean to bring require assistance up. I've just lost my link to the website there. I'll just try to regain it. I don't know whether we can do that though. The Business Plus newsletter is produced each month, and you can utilize the material within it to promote to clients. Within each edition of Business Plus, there's about 6, sometimes 8 articles, and each article finishes with a call to action at the end. Why don't you look at that newsletter and determine which of your clients might fit those categories? Because I try to vary the newsletter content so that it covers a wide stream of potential interest from your clients. We just don't write it to suit 1 or 2 categories of clients that you've got. It covers a wide area. So if we're talking about research and development, you could think about those clients who maybe have been undertaking research activities, especially in the last 12 months during the lockdown periods. Do they know about research and development tax incentive, whereby they can get a tax rebate of 43.5% of their eligible R&D expenditure? They must be a company. So there's plenty of matters to help you initiate a conversation with a client or a prospect. Perhaps your client's a tradie and he's whinging about not making much money. Well, the place to start is reviewing his charge out rate. Has it been calculated appropriately? Does it include proper allowance for the actual productivity being achieved by the individual team members? And does it reflect the overheads of the business? And does it reflect what is really happening in the markup on in external purchases being made on behalf of clients? So it's some matters you could have a discussion and then undertake a review. And then if I was you, I'd be saying to the client, I'd like to review to verify these charge out rates in actual practice each month or at the most each quarter. And we'll then sit down and have a meeting. So we'll have a set of financial accounts prepared and we'll analyze what was the actual productive hours that have been charged and compare it back to what the budget was, how much was included in the calculation of the charge out rate, and see what happened. Was it working? Was enough revenue generated? Or is there the opportunity to conduct some fine tuning to get things right? So let's look at some of the other areas that you could be offering services. Chief Financial Officer services. I've had quite a few of our subscribers talk to me of late about CFO services. And basically what you're doing is offering a virtual service because the client that you're talking to does not need a full-time CFO, but they have a need for 1, 2, 4, 10 hours a week of a top-level accounting person, you, to be able to supply those services to them. So you have that conversation, show them what you can do, and then make a presentation to them. Now, with today's technology and communications, when it all works all right, of course, you should be able to basically remain in your office for most of that time and do the work, or if you need to, you could go to your clients, but your client might be 100 kilometers away. In most cases, you don't have to waste that time or charge that traveling time to your client. You can use the technology, use Zoom to be able to have that communication. So Chief Financial Officer services is very important, especially when you combine it with the ability that your clients now have to be able to raise capital. Because one of the imposts to your clients as they raise capital is that they will surely appoint some people to their board of directors who have got real business experience to help them, to mentor them, to guide them. And those people will be looking for regular, prompt, accurate financial accounts, cost reports, budgets, cash flow updates. They want to see some evidence of drilling down into the figures to see what's happened within the business. So many of those directors and companies will be saying to their colleagues on the board of directors, we need at least a virtual chief financial officer. It's a great service that you can provide. And we've got all the details within ESS BIZTOOLS that you can use. And as I mentioned, companies, let's have a look at them. There are 3 main opportunities for you to service your clients to help them raise funds for their business. funds without having to issue security to a bank, funds without having to issue personal guarantees to a bank, the use of funds without having to commit to principal and interest monthly repayments. It's very attractive. Your client will need a good business. They'll need to have a vision as to where their business is going to go. They need to be able to sell that story. And they need to be able to work constructively with other people. It's very difficult to think you're going to have a client raise capital if they're a real loaner. That's probably not going to work. And if their business is going nowhere, extra capital probably won't achieve much either. Perhaps it will. Perhaps it will enable a more experienced person to be brought into the business, or a better marketing and selling campaign introduced, which may overcome the problems. So the first type of company that I'd be suggesting you look at is an early stage innovation company. Now, I'm afraid that a lot of accountants do not know anything about early stage innovation companies, even though they've now been around for about 4 years. They're companies that the government introduced as part of its innovation statement that was brought down in December 2015. And then by the time it all got legislated, it was around 2018 when it started. These companies were introduced by making amendments to the Tax Act, so they can raise capital basically under Section 708. So there's still a 50 shareholder limit, and they can only raise $2 million in a 12-month period. But the real attraction is that the investors in those companies receive taxation benefits. They receive a 20% tax rebate calculated on their investment in the company, up to a maximum rebate of $10,000 for a retail investor, or $200,000 for a sophisticated investor. And if they retain ownership of those original shares for longer than 12 months and less than 10 years, they don't pay capital gains tax. At the end of 10 years, the company can be revalued, and that then becomes their new cost price based on their percentage of ownership of the company, of course. So it's worth looking at. And there's very good fees that can be earned because there needs to be due diligence reviews. There's documentation that has to be submitted to the potential investors. And if they're relying on the principles test, there's documentation has to be submitted to the Australian Taxation Office prior to them being able to obtain investors. So it's worth looking at. And many of those companies then could be interested in talking to you about being the virtual CFO, because they won't be raising enough money or have enough work to keep a full-time CFO engaged. But you need to be proactive in looking for these opportunities. And many of your clients will not realize that you can supply those services. And what you're running the risk is they'll go off and talk to someone else from a bigger firm or a specialist consultancy firm or whatever. The second type of company I wanted to raise is the crowdsourced funding equity raising. And the same as early stage innovation company, you have full product package within ESS BIZTOOLS that's available to you. If your subscription's at a lower level, you can apply to go to that higher level to get these additional product packages to assist you to deliver services. Crowdsourced funding equity raising is completely different. It was amendments to the Corporations Act, allows a company with a turnover under $25 million and gross value of assets under $25 million to raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. There is a process. There is a group of people, 16 organisations in Australia, that have been appointed as crowdsourced funding intermediaries by the Australian Security Investment Commission. It's well organised, it's operational, and there's a lot of money already been raised. And some of those original companies have now come back to the market and raised a further tranche of capital. Once again, most of these companies will not want to employ a full-time accountant or chief financial officer. A great opportunity, if they're your clients, for you to become the virtual CFO and earn fees that way. Have a look at it. Talk to your clients. Try to identify who might be interested. And we also have Section 708 of the Corporations Act. It's been around for 35 years, yet I still find accountants in public practice that don't know much about it. A company can raise up to $2 million in a 12-month period from no more than 20 investors without having to produce a prospectus. It's a great way to raise some money, normally amongst friends and associates, because the company cannot promote it or advertise it. Whereas in crowdsourced funding, they can. So there's some subtle differences. You also need to be aware of the 50 shareholder limit, which definitely applies in Section 708 capital raising. But you've got all the material. Why not use it? Why not talk about it? Why not run some seminars to tell your clients that you can offer them these services? And they might encourage one of their friends at the golf club or the bowls club or the pub that they have their Friday afternoon drinks at, who's talking to them about their need to raise some capital. They might talk that person into coming and talking to you. Are you aware of the implementation and the implications of the Personal Property Securities Register? On my reckoning, over $400 million has been lost by Australian businesses, primarily SMEs. But the biggest loss of all was a multinational company that lost $62 million because it did not register ownership of its asset on an Australian government register. I think this is very tough legislation, to be honest, but that doesn't matter. It's the law. And if your clients really want to protect themselves, especially subcontractors, and especially people who have assets stored at someone else's premises, and especially people who are receiving progress payments, they're all vulnerable to falling foul to the rules and regulations on Personal Property Securities Register if they have not registered on that register. Again, are you talking to your clients about it? Whereby you could review their systems, train their staff, make sure that the person handling the new accounts is aware of it so that they can work on it. Business plans. We're about 4.5 weeks from the start of a new financial year. It's a great time to be undertaking business plan preparation. We have 40-odd questionnaires within ESS BIZTOOLS of all aspects of planning a business activity. Sit down and look at them. I don't agree with the concept of having a standard business plan and just editing it. You need to prepare what's suitable for your clients. Sure, a lot of it will be similar, but please give your client the courtesy of working through with them, having some think tank meetings. Pardon me, because that's where they'll get a lot more value out of this process than just getting a document back from you. So you can undertake business plans. And business plans costs vary from $5,000 to $40,000, depends what's involved. Grants, government grants, there's hundreds of them. We got a full package called ESS BIZGRANTS. We got papers within ESS BIZTOOLS on grants. Most SMEs love grants because the government's paying at least half the bill. Are you promoting them to your clients? Do they understand that you're proactive when it comes to grants? Because many SMEs have said to me, oh, my accountant's not interested in grants. No, told me to go somewhere else. Told me to go to the internet. The problem you've got, once they do that, they may end up getting that service done by somewhere else. Because on my reckoning, 40 to 45% of the funding that the governments are handed out on grants can be income being earned by accountants. Because you can undertake those services if you're able to offer business advisory services. And you're obviously interested in it because this webinar is for our members. So you've signed on. Let's make sure you get a return on your investment, on your subscription with ESS. We don't want you to be paying us and not using your subscription. But you have to make sure that there's some effort put into it. It's a bit like saying you're going to be a first grade footballer. You need to undertake some training. And when you look at the NRL and the AFL and the A-League teams, they start training about 6 weeks after the end of the previous season for the next season. In lots of ways, what we're trying to do here with delivering business advisory services is the same. Predictive accounting, we've got a major seminar on webinar on Wednesday, the 9th of June to launch a predictive accounting package with Plan Guru. It's on at 12 noon, AEST. Why not join us? Where we're launching a product that's built around the hardware of software of Plan Guru. But Paul Barnaby and myself will be talking about the value-adding services that are going to be available. Succession planning. I referred earlier in this presentation today to a succession planning business plan that I'm preparing at present. We've got a generational change starting to occur. Not fully. It's probably going to take the next 3 to 4 years because a couple of young people, brother and sister actually, have been introduced into the senior management role of a company that's been going for 50 years. I think it's a great story. How many of your clients are doing the same thing? But you don't just have to be doing it at the end of a 50-year period. It could be any time. And succession planning applies to all aspects of your client's business, not just the senior echelon within the business. I think succession planning is really saying, what are we doing to upskill our team members so that they can move up to another job? When I first went from an accounting firm as a young graduate into a public company, a guy who became my mentor basically said to me one night over a few beers, you need to be able to train someone else to do your job if you are going to get promoted in a corporation. Otherwise, they'll leave you sitting there forever and bring outside people in. I didn't like the idea of them bringing outside people in. So I made sure that in every job, I was training someone to become my successor. Companies could introduce the same thing because what you then end up with is very experienced people moving up the chain of command in your organization. Think about it. Talk to your clients about it. I think I mentioned before, charge out rates for tradies, but it also applies to professional service firms, your firm, but also lawyers, engineers, architects, town planners. We're all charging time. Are we including all the costs? Are we realistic on productivity figures? You know, all that. We've got a product package in the system that you can use. And retailers have got a slightly different problem, haven't they? They've got product mixes. They got their star products, which they could sell for months and make nice profits. But unfortunately, very, very few firms can rely on selling stars all the time. They get mixed up with products called cash cows. They get mixed up with problem lines. And they get mixed up with things that are disasters. They shouldn't have bought them in the first place. Or an automatic reorder system's reordered them, as I saw one of my clients go through once, and I can't repeat what was said at the time. But someone had tried for about 2 years to get rid of a certain product that had turned up to be sold in a jewelry store, and it had a couple of drinks a few nights earlier to celebrate that they'd finally cleared these vases that they never ever wanted, but someone had ordered. And I happened to be in the office as the virtual CFO doing some work, and I hear this a bit of abuse coming from someone outside, and I wandered out to see what was going on. And he was the manager of this branch store complaining to the stock control person that those products that he'd taken 2 years to get rid of, another 20 of them had turned up. And these things were products that normally would have been sold for about $500 or $600 each, so they were a bit difficult to shift. And when we investigated, it had been reordered under an automatic reorder. So clients need to check on that. That's something you might be able to check on their systems also, because what all this was doing was wasting money in the inventory, because then they had all this stock again for another 2 years or whatever. Buying a business. If your clients are interested in buying a business, you can help them do that. Or selling a business. There's plenty of work there. Or a business health check. We got business health check material there for 5 different industries. And many of you have heard me talk over the last couple of months on research and development. It's there. The product package can help. So hopefully that's given you an idea of some of the services that are included within ESS BIZTOOLS that you can utilize to get started. We're going to talk more about this subject on the Business Advisory Services Implementation Training webinar that I'm presenting on the 23rd of June at 12 noon AEST. Now, I got no chat requests. If you think of some questions later on that you'd like to ask me or comments, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. Have a great day. Goodbye.